Start your label, yeah. So I've definitely had that label put onto me. She's shy, and we'll talk about the impact of that. And then when I think about my own girls too, I think that we often get mixed up with kind of our highly sensitive kids and introversion, social anxiety, and shyness. I think often we just throw all of those things in together when they're actually very, very different things. Out of both of my kids, Una's definitely highly sensitive. Maya's slower to warm, but not necessarily shy. And I think that that's one of the big issues that happens with shyness is that we go, oh, this child is shy, without actually looking at who are they? What are they like in terms of temperament? It just becomes this umbrella term that a child then threads their entire narrative of, I am shy, so I need extra support, or I don't talk to people. And it's incredibly limiting in terms of a label.
Yeah, it's disempowering for kids, I think.
Absolutely. And so maybe that's where we should start, is what shyness actually is. In my own vocabulary, I would really almost encourage parents to just get rid of that label altogether, all labels, get rid of those labels. And instead, if you have a child who is a little bit slower to warm, we start to look more at their entire self. So we go, this child is more observant. They are slower to warm. They take their time. And when we shift how we see our child, it also shifts how we talk to our child. So we start to say things like, you're very good at understanding when you feel comfortable and when you're not. Or sometimes you need a little bit of extra time and then you're ready to step in. Those are two very different stories. You're shy versus you understand when you're comfortable versus not comfortable.
Well, that's a beautiful way to frame it. And I think we could explain to people that there's kind of there's three, right? Three overarching temperaments. And then we have that's easy, slow to warm, and difficult temperaments. Those are the classic, I think. Easy being my son, just like jumps in, really talkative, just, sensory seeking kind of kid who's just really comfortable with people right away, or he'll make himself comfortable pretty fast. And then you're slow to warm, which you were mentioning, which is more they're social, but it just takes them a little bit to dip their toe in the water to observe and just to get their feet wet and then get a feel for everybody. And then once they're familiar, they're fine. And then your difficult temperaments, they're a little more prickly, a little more distrustful, probably a little more introverted versus extroverted. I don't know a ton of difficult kids. I know more of, unless it's trauma, I know more of the slow to warm and the easy temperaments. But I know the difficult ones definitely do exist. They come into the world, I would say, kicking and screaming.
Yeah. They're just sometimes
Fiery.
Can be a little bit harder, a little bit more fiery. So those are the three there. So I think when we switch to understanding temperaments instead, it just opens up this entire world where we go, okay. And I think for children, I know for myself, I'm one of the things that I know that I shine at is my ability to really read other people and understand how are they feeling, how am I feeling right now. And so when we can start to empower kids with going, okay, who are you? How do you shine in this particular situation? It opens up this perspective of, oh, what am I here to offer the world? Very different.
Well, that's your ability. And we've talked about this on other episodes, is highly sensitive. Like we've had probably 3 or 4 episodes on highly sensitive children. So please check our archives for many of those episodes. But your HSC, you're highly sensitive, your HS,
Yeah.
child. You definitely have one kiddo that is, and I think I have one that is and one that is on the cusp, but it's just parts of it. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of, it's on I think a spectrum a little bit. And she's pretty close to being highly sensitive. And both of the girls are so attuned to what happens with other people and a lot of sensory sensitivities, really empathic that way. All 3 of my kids are. But I think I love that word empathy, because kids often who are quote unquote shy can be highly sensitive. And anyone who's never heard us talk about this, it's a temperament, not a disorder. They feel everything deeply, including sensory kind of experiences. They take in a lot more information than the average child. So it makes sense that they're taking in so much, right? That it takes a minute to adjust to a new situation and new people, and they're reading everything, versus myself and my son just kind of jump in, and half the time we're oblivious to what's kind of going on because we just have like a goal in mind, and we'll miss things because we're just jumping in.
Just beautiful. So I love that. And I agree with you. I think often our highly sensitive kiddos and adults are slower to warm, have that slower temperament. So often I think that label of shyness does go in there as well. Not always, not all highly sensitive people are necessarily shy in quotation marks, but I think that that temperament, those two go hand in hand often, often, often. The other two that we often get confused is introversion and social anxiety. So I think with introversion, we need to remember that introversion is basically when we are tired or when we need to recharge ourselves. Often introverts need quite a bit of space and time. They need time alone, whereas our extroverts often recharge through being with other people. So again, that shyness that we often speak about is more slower to warm, whereas introversion is more about energy management.
And you can have a really extroverted introvert, I say, like people who are very introverted, but they're really social, but then they're exhausted when they're done, if that makes sense. Like that's the thing. So I think people assume that if you're introverted, you're shy. And if you're extroverted, you're outgoing. And I was like, oh, actually, no, it's a battery. I think of it as a battery pack. How do
Yeah,
you recharge? That would define the management of energy, like you mentioned.
beautiful. Yeah. And then social anxiety and shy also often get mixed up. So social anxiety is often just a fearfulness of new situations, new people. Whereas again, that shyness, that temperament is actually more slower to warm. So there's a difference there too.
Yeah, they know they can handle it. They just don't like being shoved into it too fast. So it's like as long to me, it's as long as they can control the tempo of the meeting. They have that's my oldest, my 17-year-old. As long as she knows she has that piece, like I can slowly enter the situation and decide when I want to talk to people and how I want to talk to people. And we're not saying like you have to do this and then she'll start to shut down. She needs to take the lead that way. And I don't know if that was you, Tan, when you were younger. Is it if you could just decide on the pace in which you
Yeah,
entered something new?
absolutely. And it's interesting. I went to a school which specialized in the arts, and the art that I chose was drama, which is it's extroverted, it's louder, it's big, you're in front of people.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, yeah. And now we do so much public speaking, right? Uh, but it was up to me because I was able to enter when I was ready. I was in control instead of being pushed into situations. And I think that that's often what happens with our kiddos who are slower to warm, is that parents want them to be brave, to be more confident. And so we often push them into things that they are not ready for. And so this is what I say to parents is that the environment is more important than the activity. So find something that your child absolutely loves. It doesn't matter what it is, scrapbooking, chess club, debate club, it doesn't matter what it is. Find something that they're comfortable with adults that they're comfortable with. And then we can slowly scaffold them to start to take on more and more brave moments so that they can hear their voice more, so that they can become more comfortable. But the people around them is more important than the actual activity itself.
Yeah, you're right. And I think sometimes parents, whether you have a slow to warm child, an introverted, extroverted, whatever kind of child you have, I think we have these hopes and dreams for our kids that they're going to like what we like and they're going to be like us. And sometimes we get a kiddo that does not match us. And I think, one thing I've noticed about having two stepdaughters who are much more shy than me, like they're much more slow to warm, not super outgoing. And so it takes a while, but they do get there. It was hard for me at the beginning because I'm just like, jump right in. Let's just go talk to people. Like, and that was hard for them to be around an adult. And I had to accept that these are girls, these are unique kiddos that are not going to be interested in a ton of like organized activities, sports. Like, they're not going to do like public speaking. Like, this is not going to be their thing. My son's very much like that, but I had to let go of that. There's a little bit of a grief there. And I think what's important is just awareness that sometimes kids just are radically different than us. And so our job as the adults is we have to adjust to them, not vice versa. And I think we get sometimes in the trap of pushing kids to be more like us because it makes us more comfortable.